Welcome back to the latest episode of the Key and Mang audio experience. I'm your host, Mang, as always, and my fellow co-host, Key. Key, what's good?
What's up, man? How are you?
Living lavish. How you living?
Same. Living lavish.
Love to hear. We're about to start a um, new segment show where we start a question of the day that will lead us into our topic or just get us thinking a little bit. So for the first question, what was wealth growing up for you? What did wealth mean to you growing up? And how has it changed, if at all, now as you're older now?
Growing up, I would definitely say I had a very narrow definition of wealth. I thought like wealthy people made like 100K. They had a good job, went on a couple vacations a year and they were wealthy. Now, I think that obviously finances are a part of wealth, but I think it's a lot more that goes into that in terms of being able to make certain decisions without having to run them by certain people. So more freedom, knowledge in different areas, being well rounded, and then also physical health. I think that is my definition of wealth. Once you can check off all those boxes, then you can say you're wealthy. So I think it's always been about money in terms of wealth for me, but I think as I've gotten older, other components have come into that definition. What about you?
For sure. No, I feel you on that. I feel like for me, growing up, it was all about money. And it was like, all right, you got cash, you got jewelry, you got the nice cars. Like what you see on the music videos. That's what made me think, all right, you wealthy. I think now to simplify it at its most, for me, wealth is you can do whatever you want whenever you want to do it. And that's in terms of, you know, travel, uh, buying things, making decisions, relationships, being able to utilize all the connections and all the webs that you have in different spaces and being able to utilize your skill set to get to the things that you need to do, whether it is for work or what it is for like outside of work. Being able to utilize all the resources that you have to make the best decisions for yourself and the people that you're involved with.
Yeah, I agree. How do you how did you start to like redefine that definition of wealth? Like around what age did you start to care about those other aspects?
I would probably say that's a good question. I would say probably 2018 when I found Greg Todd on YouTube
Yeah.
because I didn't grow up with like a big, like we don't come from money. So I think when I saw Greg Todd as a PT and living the life that he lived, I was like, that's there's more to it than just the money, but what the money can do for you and allow you to spend time with your family, create relationships, be in different rooms. Uh, I think that's probably when the shift started to occur and be like, all right, how do I get myself to that level, or how do I give myself those opportunities? And so I'd say what 2018 is when that started, and then you get started getting around the SSPT world and getting to be around those people, and you're like, oh, like this is where they started, this is where I'm at, these are the steps that they took to get there. What are things that I can implement to start to put myself on that trajectory? And who knows where it's going to end up, but you could try and give yourself the best chance to see yourself succeed and get to where you're trying to get to once you figure out what you want.
Yeah. I think pretty much it was the same for me. I think in undergrad when I was applying to PT school, I thought that I would be able to make enough money to do these things. And then also being in PT school kind of highlights the importance of the other aspects in terms of like health. So I think once I got to PT school and once I signed up for SSPT, that's when like my perspective on this started to change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always said this since I was young that I was going to be the one to be financially stable enough to get my family out of the struggle and not have to like work every day. At least my not have to work every day, and we can just like enjoy the time, enjoy this life while we got it here. I've always had that. I don't know if that's healthy pressure to have, but I've always felt like I'm gonna be the one to do it. And I don't know. I think that's what kind of what pushed me, but it's because I want you want your parents and your family, understand how hard they worked for you to get to this point, and you never be able to pay them back, but at least make the rest of the years more enjoyable. So I don't know. I think also you start to think about, all right, now, I get into starting this career, and you're like, all right, there's steps that you can take to get to that point. It's not going to happen immediately, but I think that's also been like a driver for me and understanding that I want to make that happen. I want to be able to, take my mom and dad places and, pay off a house and not be struggling, but still be able to live the life that I want to live. And so I think that also I have that extra push. Do you have something like that? That there's a big goal that you want to accomplish that gets you through the hard times or the tough times when you feel like you can't do it?
I think everybody low key, if you have a good relationship with your parents, I think it feels good to be able to do stuff for them and put them in a better position. But outside of that, I think it's more so like pride. I think for me, it's more so like pride and certain things that I'm like realizing that I really don't have control over start to bother me a lot more. And I think the only way to overcome that is to, at least in terms of like finances, is to make more money. I feel like once you make a certain amount of money, you can do the things you really want to do. And yes, that may seem shallow. And I realize that talking to like my friends and people around me, I may come off like shallow and like I only care about money, but I think the thing that pushes me is being able to like say no to certain situations, say no to certain things I don't want to do and I don't feel comfortable doing or don't feel like aligns with me. But if you don't have that like financial aspect in check, you can't do that. And you end up doing things that don't align with your vision or your values. And I don't like that. So it's more so like alignment and pride.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel you on that. I feel you on that. I
Yeah, like
feel like
when I'm doing stuff that I don't want to do, like it shows and it truly bothers me. Like I don't like doing stuff like that.
mhm,
I don't like feeling that way. I don't like feeling restricted and like I'm forced to do things.
yeah, me and you are the same in that aspect.
Yeah.
I'm I'm a big control freak in certain aspects. And there's things when it comes to things that I can control, I don't like being out of control of those things. So um, I think that's where we're similar in that aspect.
And also my parents, like my dad's not gonna stop working regardless of anything until he's ready to stop. Like I already told him, like, can you stop working? And he's like, no, I don't want to. Like, what else am I gonna do? Like, get a hobby or something. But that's just the type of person he is. So if it came down to it, obviously I would like to do that, but he's not gonna he's not gonna take me up on it. But it's okay.
Yeah, but at least he'll have the option to. He'll have the option to if he wants to.
I think the option is there now, but whatever. That's a story for another time.
The story for different. What are we talking about on this episode? What we got on this episode?
So we're talking about the myths that people have around wealth. Obviously, you guys heard our initial thoughts on what wealth was and how that evolved over time, but there's still things that are perpetuating in society that people believe around wealth. And I think that some of the things aren't true anymore with how people have developed, how society have developed, and how the world has changed. So we're going to talk about the different beliefs and actually what the truth is from our perspective.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the first one.
Number one, myth one: wealth is only for the lucky. And I think at first it's easy to be like, yeah, this person had like his parents were rich growing up, or he got a trust fund, or he got a something happened that they ran into a lot of money. But a lot of the times you hear about people who are like extremely wealthy financially, they didn't get a handout coming up. They struggled a lot. A lot of their parents didn't come from money. A lot of, they had to struggle to get to where they're at. And it's about being able to work hard, see opportunities, build relationships, and make good decisions that over time got to, you got to build your wealth. Kind of like what Warren Buffett, like he'd been investing for a long time and started getting like wealthy, like into his 70s, but started really early. But it took 50, 60 years for it to start paying off and to see the big return. So I think it's not wealth is not only for lucky. I think it's about the situations you put yourself in, your ability to be creative, have ideas that are going to solve problems. And over time, if you put the work in, then you can position yourself in different situations to get to where you're trying to get to. But it's not going to happen overnight. And usually you find that the people who are not for everybody, but the people who have like been handed down things, handed down a lot of money, sometimes they're great and they're able to, continue on and push it forward. But other times people get complacent and they like get comfortable and then all their wealth starts to dwindle down, go down the drain because you never had to work hard for it. You just used to having things for you and you never had to use the other side of the smarts and the that work ethic and things like that, building relationships with people, solving problems. So I think you can build wealth and not just monetarily, but in whatever aspect that you find however you define wealth. But it's not only for the lucky people. It's about all the other factors that mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's luck. I think it's more so like the daily, for most people, it's the daily preparation. I think most wealthy people aren't giving out a small loan of $1 million from their dad, like Trump or something. Like that's not most people's reality. So I think it really comes down to the decisions you make over time. Like every decision you make is either making you closer or getting you closer to your goal or moving you further away from it. And obviously every decision isn't going to be the right decision, but the more right decisions you have and push you in the right direction, the closer you get to that. So I don't really think it's luck. I think it's just being prepared. And also I think it's the work that you don't see. So many people are like, oh, that person's so lucky, but they're not aware of all the stuff they're doing behind the scenes. So I think until you see that and you actually like value that, you can't say somebody's lucky. I think most wealthy people aren't lucky.
I
I mean,
agree.
they're lucky to be in that situation, but they also did the work to put themselves in that situation.
Yeah. And that's not to say that wealthy people don't struggle either. Myth number two. I think before you start to see the reap the benefits of seeing someone's portfolio or what they've been able to cause you don't see the long hours, the long nights, the wondering where the next meal is going to come from, things like that, things that you need to survive. You just struggling because you're pouring everything into this dream that you have or whatever you're trying to accomplish, and you're gonna face some kind of struggle at some point in your life. Might be financially, might be personal, might be other things, but everybody goes through struggle, and I think depending on how it depends on how resilient you are, and if you're resilient and you can stick through the hardness, then you can come out on top and figure out, you know, yeah, you use that story to help push you along your way through your journey, and I think it's another myth that wealthy people don't struggle because there's a lot of struggles that everybody goes through. Everyone's going to go through a struggle, but it's how you decide to handle that struggle that's going to help with your journey.
Yeah, I think everybody's gonna go through struggles, and yes, being wealthy, if you're talking about in terms of money, it can provide you security and comfort, but it doesn't get rid of life's challenges. So you can talk about like the mental or emotional challenges you'll face if you have a certain level of wealth. People are going to have higher expectations of you. So being able to fulfill those on a consistent basis can be hard on your mental. Society expects you to have a certain lifestyle, sometimes expects you to act a certain way. You might feel like you can't relate to other people. So all of those things are struggles as well. So you may not have financial struggles, but struggles are going to pop up in other places, and that can still play into your overall well-being. So I think it just changes the type of problems you have, but it doesn't eliminate the problems.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, and I think that also goes into this next one: wealth equates to happiness. I think there's an assumption that if you're super wealthy, that you're going to be happy automatically, which I mean, it does not hurt to have a lot of money. Let's get that disclaimer out the way. But there's things that, like, if you're having to work 20 hours out the day to maintain your wealth or keep your income in, where do you get the time in for family if you got a family, or to go golfing if you want to go, if that's what makes you happy, or surf, or whatever the things that make you happy? Where do you have the time to fit those things in if you're working all the time to maintain your lifestyle or whatever you're trying to accomplish? So I think financial security, like, it's great to have, but if you don't have the other thing, then you're gonna have much money is not gonna solve all your problems. It might dampen them a little bit. Like, you can go wherever you want to go, do whatever you want to do, but sometimes you might feel empty just because you working all the time, or you don't have people to share with, or you don't have bigger things that you're trying to accomplish besides just make as much money as possible. So I think just because you got a lot of money doesn't mean that you're going to be happy all the time.
Yeah, I always say money is a tool for happiness. I personally, in America, let's see, in America, I don't see how in America you can be happy without money, but I do think that it's possible to be happy without money in certain countries. But in terms of having a lot of money and being wealthy, I don't think that's, like you said, that's all you need to be happy. But I think having that financial security allows you to give yourself options for getting to that happiness point. And I think that this topic is kind of subjective because everybody has different, I guess, perceptions of happiness. So I think for me personally, I think money and wealth is a tool for happiness, and you just got to figure out what that means for you, like what happiness means for you, and how you can use your wealth to get there.
What does happiness mean to you? Like, what would be happiness in your eyes?
Happiness is for me, number one is like living out my true desires, despite what anybody is thinking about it. Because at the end of the day, I'm the only one that's gonna have to deal with the emotions and the consequences of not doing that. That's number one. Number two is being able to have like meaningful relationships with the people I love. Um, and number three would be like being able to experience like anything I want to at that time. I think that's like happiness. But I think the main thing is number one, like fulfill it, like living out what I want to do. Because if I'm not doing that, and if I'm like trying to avoid certain things because of what other people are going to think, I think that I can't ever truly be happy. So it's more so number one.
Yeah, no, I like your 3 points. I think to answer that question for myself, I think it's the ability to I like the building meaningful relationship with the people that are close to you, and you never know who you're gonna meet in this world of ours, you never know the impact that people could have. Um, I do like the idea of being able to experience different places and going experiencing different things with different people and the people that you grew up with and got you to where you're at. And then I think being able to leave it, like if I could leave something for the next generation that will give them a head start or give them a like make a leave an impact, I think that that would be happy. That would be happiness for me. I think that'd be it's really cool to just leave something, leave the world a better place than you found it. So that'd be my definition. I was just curious since we started talking about that, what your thoughts were.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, happiness is gonna look different for everybody, but I think knowing what knowing what that looks like for you allows you to kind of shape your actions and your decisions based on that. But if you're just going through life without knowing your values and what makes you happy, it's kind of hard to have purpose and have fulfillment.
Hmm.
Next myth: all wealthy people are born into rich families, and investing is only for the wealthy. So I don't believe all wealthy people are born into rich families. I think that, especially in 2023, I think wealthy people are more so, unless you have generational wealth, I feel like wealthy people aren't born into rich families. And I think it's the, like their upbringing and the stuff they experience while they were younger that kind of pushes them to change things around and be that first person to have a certain level of wealth to help out their family. But I think nowadays it's not people just being born into rich families. I think the people that are born into rich families are the ones that kind of blow through their money or get complacent, get content, and they really don't have anything to show for it besides like what their family did in the past. And I think you can tell those people based off of like how they act.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Sometimes it might take a little longer than others, but definitely if you pay attention, I think you can see what people's like true intentions are and how they like. You can tell a lot about little things based on like what you pick up on. I agree with everything that you said. I think that you hear people some people who get super wealthy or get a good lifestyle are like forced into doing it because something was about to be taken away. Like whether it's something that's important, one of their pillars that are important to them, whether it's family time, um, experiences, something one of those was threatened, or your health was threatened, and you're almost near death experience. So you realize that you have to have create something to either take care of your health better, to not have to go back to the hospital, to save a marriage or to save a relationship. Things you usually get like pushed into having to make that jump, make that decision, and not just something you don't come out of school and be like, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to own multi-million-dollar business. Like usually not the case. Something you got to be pushed into that. And then same with like investing is only for the wealthy. I think now I'm starting to learn more about the importance of compound interest and starting early into retirement accounts and putting money away for when that time does come, but also not waiting until 65 to be able to use the money that you've invested in, but trying to figure out ways that you can have meaningful experiences now, but still make find good decisions for the present and the future. So I think we're starting to be more put on more about investing strategies and what works best for you and what your plans are and what you want to accomplish. So I think with more education that we're starting to take more action on investing early and understanding the current and future benefits.
Yeah, I think the educational component is the number one thing. Like just being exposed to investing and learning more about it, and if you can, getting somebody to help you with that is what helps with like getting started with investing. But I think now with social media and like people in certain niches, like the finance niche, I think they're doing a good job of exposing those who traditionally wouldn't have known about investing to the importance and how they can get started, because I don't think it was only for the wealthy. It was just that it was just the wealthy only knew. So it's more so just knowing, having the education and knowing how to apply it to your situation. You don't have to be making a certain amount of money to start investing. You can always start small and then build from there. But if you don't know that, you're not going to be able to execute on it.
Exactly. Next myth, you need a high income to build financial wealth. And a high income can definitely help, but if you're not good at saving money, investing money, like we just talked about the point before, then it makes it harder for that financial wealth to accumulate over time. So like if you make 100K a year, but you spend 110, like you in the hole, and you're not gonna be able to build up that way. You're going down. So if your spending habits and saving habits aren't on point and don't have a plan for where your money is going and what you want to do with it, then that makes it, as you can make $1 million, 2 million, spending more than you make, then just over time it's going to catch up to you, and you're just going down, trending down.
Yeah, I think it's easier to build wealth if you have more income, obviously, but it at the end of the day, it all comes down to how much money you keep and how much money you invest. So that leads me to the next myth that wealthy people have perfect credit scores. I think that most wealthy people do have good credit scores, but I don't think that you can say that all wealthy people have to have perfect credit scores. But at the same time, and I was telling you this off air, was I think that if you don't have a high income, having a good credit score or perfect credit score is beneficial, because then you can leverage that to give you opportunities to make more income. So I think that wealthy people are aware of this and they prioritize having good credit so that they can get more income and become wealthier. So for the most part, I feel like most wealthy people have good credit, but it's not always the case, because if you're wealthy, you can get away with not having it.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that. Thank you, hit that. Next myth, wealth is only about the money. And I think we've hit on this before. Wealth can come in a lot of different ways than just the money. Come in knowledge, relationships, health, your personal fulfillment. There's a lot of things that can contribute to feeling wealthy, and don't just. I hope that we got across that it's not just about the money. Like the money is cool and money is important to get to some things, but it's not the only thing that matters. And there's other things, other buckets that you can fill to make yourself wealthy.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that leads perfectly into the last myth of you can't be wealthy and have a work-life balance, because in order, by the definition of wealth being more than just money, I think you would have to have a work-life balance in order to be wealthy. You have to be able to, like do whatever work you're doing, but also prioritize the other things outside of that that are meaningful to you. So different hobbies, different relationships, different experiences, that all plays a role into your overall well-being and your overall wealth. So if you're just working and trying to achieve wealth via monetary assets, it's going to be hard for you to find that balance, and you're not going to be as wealthy as you would like.
There is no work-life balance. I think we had an episode on this. There is no
Yeah,
work-life balance. It's about what you prioritize, what's important to you at the current moment in time.
exactly. Balance does not exist. You just have to figure out your values and how you want to distribute your time amongst them.
I think that was a good. I think that was a good. I hope we debunked a lot of myths. We'd be curious to hear about if you have any wealth myths, or if you agree or disagree with any of the points that we brought up. Love to hear discussion, and then go and answer the question that we posed at the beginning of the show. what does wealth mean to you now, and what did it mean to you back when you were younger, and had to change along the way. But on that note, we appreciate y'all for listening, and we'll catch y'all on the next episode. Peace.
Peace.